Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of the Popcorn Square podcast. I am Neff, joined with
Kage.
And Buttons is off today, but that's all right. We are going to be carrying the load. So we're going to be talking about the films in January that we spoke on in the last episode, but not specifically the quality of the films. We want to talk about how those films did at the box office. We will do some reviews on some of these films as far as what people are saying, just to kind of give you an idea from the outside of what people think about these films, since we're going to be talking about them. Then we'll talk about some upcoming films for February, because we are in February now. We'll talk about some box office projections for those films. And then we'll also talk about what films we want to see trailers for in this upcoming weekend for Super Bowl 59. On the weekly, I discussed that there's going to be a couple trailers that Marvel has projected to release, just to promote some of the films that they have coming up on their schedule. But we're going to talk in general about some other films that may have not been listed that we know about that we would like to see trailers on the Super Bowl for. And then we'll have a little bit of a discussion about Last of Us, particularly Last of Us Season 2. Kage has a lot of knowledge on Last of Us in general, so we will definitely be speaking on that. Wish Buttons was here so we could have that dialogue about Season 1, because she finally did watch Season 1, so we were excited to do that. But things do happen, so we will have to cover Season 1 a little later on, but we will talk about what we expect for The Last of Us Season 2. So, January films. Ladies and gents, you know we talked about Companion. We talked about Presence. We talked about Wolfman. Let's look at some box office. So, we have Wolfman, right? That's from Universal Pictures. Blumhouse also did some work on that. Blumhouse, pretty solid studio. Universal backing them, so not a bad thing. $25 million budget, $29 million box office. Not that good. This is a film that was announced in 2014. It was supposed to be part of the dark universe that Universal was putting together. Does anybody remember The Mummy with Tom Cruise? Yes. That was supposed to, that was going to be the kickstart for the dark universe. We were going to have some Frankenstein in there, obviously Wolfman, a couple other characters from that dark universe. You can look that up. And it was going to be interesting, but, you know, The Mummy just didn't get out to a good start there. But we finally got Wolfman. Personally, I haven't heard much about it, just outside of the circuit that I'm in as far as cinema is concerned. The Rotten Tomatoes score wasn't that good. But overall, not doing well at the box office right now. This film is a flop. $25 million budget, $29 million box office. This film was in production hell for a while as well. But, you know, sometimes you're going to get that, especially when you release in January. It's not always a knock it out the park type month. Typically, we've heard that studios just kind of throw out films that they don't think are going to do that well in January. Sometimes you have some films that do exceed expectations, and sometimes there are films that they don't look at like that. The Beekeeper is one of them. That was a film that came out in January, action film with Jason Statham. Me and Kage both like this film. Film was a decent film and made about 3 to 4x at the box office, and now we have The Working Man and potentially The Beekeeper 2, which I talked about on the weekly as well. Hopefully they get that going. But after The Wolfman, we have Presence. We talked about this on our episode as well. This is a film by Steven Soderbergh. Steven Soderbergh, great director. This is from Neon. I call Neon the miniature A24 Studios. Got a real independent, artsy feel, and they've been doing a lot lately. $2 million budget, $5.2 million box office. So when your budget's that small, do you really have to make a ton of money? Maybe they were hoping for this film to make $15 million. That would be about a 7X, big blockbuster success. For it to double, it's not necessarily a bad thing. How much did they put into marketing? I'd say at least $1 million. Of course, they probably wanted to get about $10 million out of this film. This film did release on the 24th, so, you know, it's only been out for a week. Could make another $3 to $4 million. You never know. Word of mouth could take over and we could get to $10 million there. And then you have a 5X at the box office. This film is starring Lucy Liu, Chris Sullivan, Kalina Lang, Eddie Madej, Wes Mulholland, and Julia Fox. Written by David Koepp. And obviously, like I said, Steven Soderbergh is the director. Pretty well-renowned director there. He's also doing Black Bag, which we talked about before on an episode starring Michael Fassbender and Kate Blanchett. Also, Pierce Brosnan is in that film. So Black Bag is one of those films that may be a wild card that I take a look at. That film is going to be releasing in March, and that is a Soderbergh film. Last but not least, big release for January, Companion. We talked about Companion in the last episode as well. It's actually the thumbnail. Really do like this poster here from the creators of Barbarian and The Notebook. Very interesting juxtaposition there. $10 million budget, $4 million at the box office right now. This film is being brought out by Warner Brothers. And funny enough, I'm looking at Rotten Tomatoes as we speak, 93% from the tomato meter. So those are the critics, the certified critics there. So a good thing. But can you guess the audience score on the popcorn meter? 90%. So we're looking at a pretty solid film when we're looking at just reviews regarding this film. Now, is the box office going to translate? Who knows? When we talked on the last episode, I stated that the film did have a tame budget of $10 million, and that is what you want to be looking for when you're doing these horror films, especially these horror films in the month of January. This is not October, November, December, when you typically want to see something like this. So you are taking a chance putting out a film like this in January, but a $10 million budget is a budget that you want to run into January with. So nothing bad there. Let's look at a couple reviews for Companion. That's going to be the focus just on the front part of this episode here. So we have Mark Kermode. He says, smart, sharp, and bittingly incisive. We have Kyle Smith. With a macabre sense of humor and a sardonic take on what AI might mean in practical terms, the film is a witty warning about the near future. It's also one of the most skillfully constructed horror movies of this decade. This is David Fear from Rolling Stone. Even when Companion simply wants to entertain you, the film keeps getting under your skin about outsourcing one of the last true vestiges of humanity to the tech bro industrial complex. So just a couple decent reviews for Companion, which is in theaters now, actually just released yesterday. So those are a couple big films that we got in the month of January. Ladies and gentlemen, they're in theaters now. If you've seen these, please comment down below after you listen to this episode. Let us know what you think about these films. And also, let us know if you haven't heard anything about these films. You know, we talk about cinema in general here, but we like to dig into the weeds, and we like to talk about sometimes the logistics and business behind films getting releases. So if you haven't heard about these films, not a good thing. That is going to hurt their box office. But yes, Wolfman, Presence, Companion, some of the big releases that we had in January. I'm going to shift over to Kage, and then we are going to jump into February. Sir, what do you think about these box offices so far?
So right now, I got to say, I'm still curious about Presence, just because it didn't get great reviews, but I can appreciate the artsy approach to it. I've seen a lot of synopses that I've read about it. What little I could find is that you're seeing the movie from the perspective of spirit and entity, whatever you want to call it, and I think that's kind of unique because I've always said it that I'm really big on like paranormal horror as opposed to slasher horror, you know. But that's a first for me. I've never heard of a film that shows that perspective, so I want to see how they do it. I feel like there's a potential for it to be like a diamond in the rough. I tend to like the different movies that maybe not necessarily do great in theaters when it comes to horror, that is. So I'm curious, but I think I'm going to wait for that to come on stream. On the other hand, we have the Companion. That one is really interesting to me, and I'm glad to hear that it's got a 93% on Rotten Tomatoes. That's very cool for something that's unknown. You know, I think that's always a nice surprise. You know what I mean? To just hear about a movie, get little to no information in the trailer. That's how it should be. Just enough to get you interested, but not give away the entire plot. Too many movies are doing that, unfortunately, these days. So for them to come out and just, you know, give a trailer, I think they gave 3 trailers or something, but I only watched one, just to check it out. But I feel like that one is interesting because in the poster or in the trailer it says from the studio that brought you Notebook, you know, a romantic film, and Barbarian, which is a complete opposite. It's like, okay, a very diverse studio, creative speaking. So I think that's really cool that you have a studio that's willing to do that. You know what I mean? Like you mentioned Blumhouse. I've watched a lot of movies by Blumhouse, some really good and some really bad. But at the end of the day, their whole thing is horror movies. That's mainly what they do. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. I don't think they've actually done anything besides horror.
Yeah, it's definitely their niche.
Yeah, and so you get this studio that's like, oh, we did the most famous romantic film ever, Notebook. Never seen it, but I've heard a lot of women talking about it. So it's good for them, But then they're making this movie. Now, the only thing that kind of brings it down a notch for me personally is I feel like it might be similar to Megan. Because
yeah, I'm getting that vibe for sure.
Okay, do you see what I mean? So, for those that haven't seen it, Megan, it's kind of set in the future, and there's this android that's supposed to be a toy, and it learns and it takes care of. It's supposed to be your kid's best friend. They're trying to sell it as a toy, and of course, as things do in AI movies, it becomes self-aware and it gets dangerous. Blah blah blah. We've seen that before, AI turning evil, Matrix, Terminator, it's not a concept we're new to. It was still entertaining. I really enjoyed Megan, and they do have a sequel of that coming. But I watched the trailer of Companion, and I don't know how to read it at first, and then they kind of let you know, hey, that this is futuristic in a way. It's an android.
Correct.
You know what I mean? And they act a little haywire, but they're under remote control. So we'll see how much it differs from Megan. So far, from what it sounds to be way better.
Yeah, that'd be really
Megan.
good if you watch that because you've seen Megan, so you can have a direct comparison.
Yeah. So I'm gonna. So that part, and that can go either way. And I'll be open-minded. I'll be fair. This could totally blow me out of the water. Now, looking at the Rotten Tomatoes score and seeing that praise when it just came out, yesterday?
Yeah.
That's really great. That's really great. And that's something that I'm definitely going to be trying to see in theaters as soon as I can.
Any thoughts on Wolfman not doing so well? I think it's just a concept that's not going to work with a modern take. Because I did report on the weekly about Robert Eggers. I don't know if you knew about this, Kage. His next film is going to be Werewolf in December of 2026.
Dude, get some new ideas. How are you going to make a Wolfman?
When it's Robert Eggers, this is Nosferatu director. So this might be different.
Oh, the plot thickens.
Oh, yeah. That's why I said Nosferatu.
Okay,
I said this is going
right.
to change Christmas releases forever. I think he's just going to target Christmas, and he's going to do these dark, the macabre, classic films. Now you could say, hey, man, let's do something different here. We know that you like this genre, it's your niche. Let's expand our horizons here.
Yeah.
But if he continues to do a good job with it, it might be that itch that needs to be scratched, and he might be the one that does.
Yeah.
Because you need that element in the contemporary world of cinema. It's very refreshing. Not if it's done every year, but I like that Robert Eggers takes his time with these films, cares about the product, the source material, and then he hammers it out, and he gives you time in between. He's not putting out 3 of these movies a year. So,
That's the silver lining right there. You're absolutely right, Neff. There's, I'm new to that director. Mm-hmm. Seeing Nosferatu, that was my first film that I've ever seen by him, and I really enjoyed it. We all did here at the Popcorn Square. I did not see Wolfman, but I didn't want to. It just seemed like a rainy Sunday afternoon. I got nothing to do, and it's on stream, and
Definitely
I guess I'll watch it.
This
That's
is definitely
the
a
vibe I get
stream.
from it.
Yeah.
I'm not going to clear my schedule to go see a movie like this. All right, this is like I got nothing going on. It's raining. I'm bored out of my mind. Let's see what
the girl from Ozark. Okay, I'll watch it.
Yeah, right. So they did, yeah, I don't think so,
Are you
man.
surprised by the box office numbers?
No, not really. Because now, hear me out. You have the classic horror movie tropes. I mean, nothing's more classic than Nosferatu. That's like the oldest of oldest horror stories ever. I think the first movie, one of the first movies ever made in existence. And you know, you got the what's it called? You have the Wolfman. We all know about that. The Mummy. You know, all these classic Universal Studios type monsters have been around for what 100 years or more. So you say Wolfman, but then right after that, he's gonna make Werewolf.
So Robert Eggers didn't do Wolfman.
Oh,
He's
didn't.
doing a film based off the classic werewolf films later. Robert Eggers has nothing to do with
All right,
this.
that's my mistake then.
Yeah,
Thank you for the correction. Yeah, well, in that case, if he didn't do the other thing and he's dipping his toes in that pool, okay, you've shown me what you can do on Nosferatu. Show me what you can do with this. You have my attention simply because I saw a sample of your work.
Correct.
You know, so okay, thank you for telling me. Say that. That changed my perspective. Yeah, I definitely like that.
Good. So now that we've gotten through January, ladies and gentlemen, didn't want to spend too much time on that. We did have a good chunk of time dedicated to January. And January was just yesterday. So we talked about all the films in theaters. Now let us know down in the comments, like we said, about what you think about these films, if you did see them or if you heard about them. Let's look at February, since we are in the month of February now. First film that caught my attention was Heart Eyes. This is a film from Screen Gems and Spyglass. Looks like your typical slasher. Don't know if there's going to be a psychological element to it, but I got the premise here for you, ladies and gentlemen, if you haven't heard of this film. Co-workers working late on Valentine's Day are mistaken for a couple by the infamous Heart Eyes killer. Now the couple must spend the most romantic night of the year running for their lives. So definitely going to be your typical slasher there. I don't have a budget for this film yet, but it is going to be releasing on, I believe, the 7th of February. So we will get some more information on the budget for that. And I've been hearing rumblings of that film, just didn't report it at all. I got a lot of information on that film from Bloody Disgusting, but like I said, just didn't report it because I'm not really interested in that genre of. It's not that I'm not interested in slashers. I'm not really interested in like the newer slashers for the most part. I like the slashers that have some type of character to them, have been around for a while. And now you can look at that statement two different ways. You could say, well, they got to start somewhere, right? But there's just a different quality of older slashers. They have that nostalgia, which I think kind of hurts the newer ones because they don't have that nostalgia to pull you in. I think the slasher that's really up and coming at this point and is really cracked through the mainstream over all of these after all of these slasher films, just based off a quality standpoint, is Terrifier at this point. And we talked about how Terrifier is extremely extreme. So I think Hard Eyes is going to be something that it is going to be a slasher, but it's not going to be something that, you know, you can't take your teenager to. Do I advise you to take your 15-year-old to Hard Eyes? I'm not saying that. I'm just saying it's probably not something that you're going to have a talk with them afterwards. You know what I mean? It's probably going to have a funny element to it. It's going to be based around Valentine's Day. It's kind of like Thanksgiving. I mean, how bad could it be? Thanksgiving does have some brutal scenes, but then again, Thanksgiving is a film that doesn't take itself too serious, which is why I like Thanksgiving. I think Kage liked Thanksgiving as well. So I think Hard Eyes is going to fall into that category there. One that I don't think any of us knew about until I really looked now. I think this might be very interesting for some of our listeners out there. The Witcher, Sirens of the Deep. This is going to be a Netflix release, I believe.
Oh, wait, isn't that the animation?
It is animated, Kage, yes.
Okay.
That releases on February 11th. So I think that might be interesting for some people there. I don't know if The Witcher's kind of taking the same notes away from how Lord of the Rings did their animated movie. But hopefully, you know, The Witcher has some fans. They want to watch an animated version of it. Of course, I know there was a lot of controversy as far as Mr. Henry Cavill leaving The Witcher. I'm sure Kage can speak more to that. But yeah, you have an animated film. Then we have the big one of February. Captain America, Brave New World from Marvel Studios. I believe this is Marvel's first release of 2025. A lot of information we've talked about on the weekly and on the Popcorn Square about this film. Mostly I've just talked about what's going on behind the scenes, reshoots, the budget, all types of things like that. So it looks like we got the wrong budget. And then, there could be tax breaks and things like that, where we had a bloated budget before because of the film's production and, of course, reshoots on top of that. But then you go back, X out some things, get tax breaks, rebates, and it brings that budget down. So it looks like the budget for Brave New World now is sitting at $180 million. This is a film that was reported to be about $400 million, so quite the difference there. Is anybody going to be watching Captain America Brave New World? Are you going to get your popcorn bucket? I do think the popcorn buckets are probably one of the best elements of the release of this film. I do think they're going to fly off of the shelves. I did a weekly episode on that as well. Funny thing, they actually put out the popcorn buckets at a couple theaters a month ahead of release of this film. So the messed up thing is, for people that weren't in the know, if they expect to go to the theater and get one of those popcorn buckets from a select theater, they may be out of luck because they already sold them out. But yeah, I don't think these popcorn buckets are going to last. But yes, Brave New World, a lot of controversy around this film, and not necessarily all bad. Me and Kage spoke before getting on the mic about this film. I think it is a good stream. With an $180 million budget, I do think this film can do well. I noticed that Marvel really has been pushing the marketing as of the last month or two, and I wouldn't be surprised if we see a trailer for the Super Bowl this Sunday. I don't think it's necessarily going to be a new sneak peek trailer. We've seen a lot of sneak peeks regarding this film. I don't think they're going to keep putting out that much more information. For the most part, you already know what's going to happen in this movie. We talked about that being a thing that we've seen in trailers for over a decade now, where the film just tells you too much. But yeah, I don't expect a new trailer. Do I expect maybe a cool little featurette or something like that, or possibly the official trailer that we got before premiering on Super Bowl? Yes, because the film is going to release literally about a week later, same week as the Super Bowl, actually. Comes out on Friday after the Super Bowl. So yeah, I expect something there for Captain America Brave New World. That's going to be February 14th. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm running through the list here. One that I know Kage is extremely interested in, The Monkey. This one is also neon. The Monkey's based on a short story by Stephen King, a 1980 short story that is. I'll let Kage go into this a little more afterwards, but we have James Wan as a producer. Osgood Perkins is the screenplay writer, and he is the director. Like I said, this one is from Neon. This release is 1 week after Captain America Brave New World, February 21st, 2025. $10 million budget. This one could be good. This one could be really good. And a lot of solid people attached to this film. I'm not going to go through the whole list, but a lot of solid people attached to that film. What else do we have in the month of February? So we talked about Brave New World, The Monkey, Heart Eyes, Cleaner. Cleaner's a funny one that Buttons brought up, starring Daisy Ridley. I did watch the trailer. It was extremely comical. I don't think this film is going to do that well. It just doesn't look like a super high-quality film. Queever Distribution, I've never even heard of these people. But yes, Daisy Ridley is in this film. I think Clive Owen is in this film. Clive Owen, pretty good actor. I haven't seen him in too much as far as big mainstream films. He might be doing some things on the independent circuit. When I say independent circuit, I mean not the mainstream, not that he's working with independent directors and production studios. Maybe he's doing more artsy projects, but I did see him in this trailer. Maybe they're kind of bringing him in to up the ante on the acting. And I like Daisy Ridley. I just don't feel like this is a part for her. I think it's going to be really interesting to see how that film does overall. Not one I'm going to be watching, but once again, we can't judge it because we have not seen the film. We have to be objective here. Last Breath from Focus Features. If I'm not mistaken, I think Woody Harrelson is in this. This one could be interesting as well. $22 million budget. That's going to be releasing on the 28th, I believe. And that pretty much does it for the month of February. Obviously, there's more releases in between, but these are the releases that I think are really standouts, maybe have some buzz around them, and have the potential to do well. You're going to get a lot of films in between big films, but we're not really talking about those right now. We just want to talk about the big theatrical releases so far. And so that's what we got for the month of February. Kage, any thoughts on anything that was listed there? And what do you think about some of these budgets that we have seen, and what do you think they're going to do as far as the box office projections goes? I want to hear what you think in regards to Captain America: Brave New World, and also, Kage, I want to know what you think about The Monkey. I know you said you were interested in that, and you have some information after you watched the trailer that I think was really interesting that ties into another big supernatural horror franchise that I'm sure everybody will know once you speak on it. Go ahead.
Yeah, so as far as Captain America is concerned, I don't think this is going to do that well. You know, I think the people that are going to go see this film are going to be the absolute diehard fans of Captain America. For me personally, I enjoyed the movie. I'll give you that. I enjoyed the movies, but it's definitely not my favorite Marvel superhero. And that being said, you know, like I'm looking at the budgets here for the previous films. Like Captain America, the first Avenger, that had a budget of $140 million. Okay, then you got Winter Soldier, and that was $170 million. You got Captain America: Civil War that made $250 million. Now, mind you, these were in the early half of 2000s when Marvel was at its height. Right now.
Yep.
But nowadays, Marvel movies aren't they kind of hit their luster after Avengers Endgame, with Deadpool and Wolverine being the exception. As great as that film was, it made over $1 billion worldwide. They're talking about making a sequel. I still don't think that's going to save Marvel. And so this film, this upcoming Captain America film, it says that there's a what is it? What'd you say the budget was? 180 million.
Yeah, 180 million.
180 million is the budget. Let me say this again. The new one has a budget of 180. Winter Soldier in 2014 had a budget of 170.
That's pretty good if you're looking at the inflation and the cost of everything now.
Fair. That's fair. You know, I've been reading the comments, you know, on YouTube, on Reddit, and I've seen kind of mixed reactions to seeing Harrison Ford as the Red Hulk. Some people are like, "Oh, that's awesome," you know. Other people,
Ross.
and then other people are like, that just looks stupid." So it's pretty divided. You know what I mean? Maybe if this movie came out in the middle of summer, it would do really well. But I'm not expecting a high return on that one, if I'm just being honest, okay? I would say if it made 300 million back, I'll be surprised. Maybe they would make more money if they released it in a summer, but I don't think so. I don't think so right now.
Interesting. What do you think about what do you think about The Monkey?
So The Monkey,
I don't think we got the budget was 10 million, right? I think the budget was 10 million on The Monkey. What do you just think about the quality of the film? What do you expect from that?
So right now, that's a mixed bag. We got a lot of good things that are going for this film. First off, it's based off a Stephen King short story. I like Stephen King movies. I like some of his books that I've read. So you got my interest based on that, just knowing that he's attached, that he's involved. James Wan. James Wan movies, I like a lot of his earlier films, you know, Dead Silence and the Saw franchise and such like that. His films nowadays have kind of been hit or miss, but still, seeing James Wan attached to something Stephen King did, I think there's some potential there. And stay with me here because this is something different that I talked to off mic with Neff, is that there's some connections a little bit to the Conjuring series, okay? So stay with me, folks. If you've watched all of the Conjuring films, you will know, if you got an eagle eye, you will notice that the monkey just like on this movie poster, very similar to this, it's in those films. It's not front and center on those films. The story isn't made about them, but like Ed and Lorraine Warren were, and believe or don't believe, but the story is that they were, Ed Warren was a demonologist, and his wife, Lorraine Warren, was a psychic, and together they helped people who were being haunted, possessed, whatever. They would do that, and so those were real people, okay? And then they wrote books, and you can look it up all over Google. It's, everything I'm saying right now, you can look it up. But the thing is, the Conjuring movies were based on their adventures, if you want to call it that. And so they have this room, and it exists in real life. They have a room where they put all their haunted and cursed objects, and they have a priest bless it twice a month type of thing, and it's like super serious, and you're not supposed, no one is to touch these items because they think some evil entity could attach itself to you, blah, blah, blah. And they say that in the movies, right? They have all these objects. Well, when you see this room in the movies, you always see the monkey. And you don't get any backstory in the movie about this monkey, about what it did, what horrible, horrifying thing it was involved with. We just see it there. I think at one point, it might have been in Conjuring, I don't remember if it was, I think it was one, where it shows Ed Warren being interviewed by somebody, and he takes him down to this room, and he's saying all of these objects are either cursed, possessed, blah, blah, blah. And then the guy, he's listening to him talk, and he's going to like touch things because that's just how human beings are. And he goes, "Don't touch anything." And he goes, "Not even the monkey?" He goes, "Not even the monkey." And that's the only thing we know. So anyway, that little tangent. Because I've seen that movie in the Conjuring series, it's like there's a true story attached to it. I haven't looked it up. I'm curious because I like that stuff. But yeah, I want to see. We're going to learn about the monkey. And what's interesting is that this film is not a part. It's not a part of the Conjuring movies, but it does have James Wan. So James Wan, who worked on the Conjuring films, who worked on Saw,
Has some influence.
he has some influence. So I'm curious about the monkey, if we're going to see some nods to other things in the Conjuring universe just because of Wan's attachment. I wonder if there's going to be mention or an Easter egg or something referencing Ed Lorraine Warren. I don't know. And it could just be not connected to any of those things.
Right. Could be coincidence.
And it could be coincidence. It's a pretty damn good coincidence, if you ask me. But yeah, I'm very curious on that one. We get to learn more about the monkey that I've seen in the Conjuring movies. You get to see the director who worked on the Conjuring movies, but it's not about them. It's about, and that's the thing. It's based on a short story written by Stephen King, a fictional story. So that just adds another layer of complexity. But all these things added up, it just makes it a very interesting film. Time will tell if it's a real banger or if it's a diamond in the rough. I don't know. Find out.
Good ideas there and good explanation. I like that connection with The Conjuring there. That's something definitely that it's outside of the box. So I'm glad that you actually brought that up because that's something you can see and then identify. Like you said, does it necessarily connect directly? It may not, but it's also something that piques interest and it's something that you notice that I'm sure a lot of people didn't really even think about. So very good way to wrap that up there. So yeah, for February, Hard Eyes, right? Then we also have Captain America Brave New World, which we talked about. I believe The Witcher is going to be hitting Netflix. That's an animated Witcher film. We had The Monkey. Kage just spoke on that. Last Breath, starring Woody Harrelson. And that's pretty much going to wrap up big, interesting releases. There was Cleaner there, but like I said, other than that, that is going to wrap up those big releases for February. So it's going to be another month where you're going to be, having to really lock it in and say, do I want to spend the money on this, or is this something that I can sit back, maybe stream later and save myself the $30 and the gas money driving to the theater? Oh, I see something awesome here. A re-release, Cowboy Bebop is going to be in theaters.
There's a lot of, I've been
cool.
looking it up, there's a lot of re-releases
and
coming
Hellraiser.
out.
Whoa.
Oh, yeah.
So that's sick. I'm sure those are going to be limited. They are re-releases. I'm sure they're going to be at specific times at specific theaters, but just something interesting to look into. If you're into anime, Cowboy Bebop is one of those classics, and Hellraiser. I mean, I don't need to talk about Hellraiser. We love Hellraiser here. Everyone loves Pinhead.
That's legendary, man.
What do you got, Kage?
Well, I was going to say real quick, for those that don't know, something was kind of piquing my interest when you were talking about The Witcher. I really like the Witcher games, or I played 3, really loved it. Season 1 of Witcher was really cool. Season 2, that's a mixed bag. But I dropped off after Cavill left, as many people did. But what a thing to remember is that there already was a Netflix animated series of Witcher, and that came out in August 23rd.
How did that do?
It got, on average, I would say, like, it was okay. It was like 6 out of 10 ballpark. It was released in August 23rd of 2021 and called The Witcher: Nightmare of the Wolf. I did not finish it, and it's not because it wasn't interesting, but I was kind of multitasking while I was watching it, and I just got busy, and I didn't go back to it. I definitely want to, just to see, but The Witcher isn't for everyone. It's a very, very deep, expanded universe. I mean, there are books, okay? There were books. I'm pretty sure there were books before the game, okay? So there's some deep lore. My knowledge is only based on Witcher 3. That's all I know, right? But you got all these books and stuff, all this in-depth lore, and that's why Cavill left the show, is because he was just like, you guys, the producers they're going to go off on a tangent. It's like, that's not what Geralt would do. That's not how this is, blah, blah, blah. And you got to give it to Cavill. You got to respect that. The man respects the lore, and if you're not going to respect the lore, he doesn't want to be a part of it. As sad as I am to see him go, I respect his decision. He's standing up for what he believes in, as far as like being faithful to the material. And so like this, The Witcher: Nightmare of the Wolf, I don't know if that follows the games, the books, a little bit of both, or if it's completely its own thing. I don't know. So that came out in 2021, and then fast forward to February 11th of this year, and we have The Witcher: Sirens of the Deep, another animated series on Netflix. It's their second crack at it. The animation, it looks like the art style, it looks different. But that's really all I can say. I can't tell you if it's going to be amazing. I don't know. We won't know until we know.
Yeah, this is definitely a wild card. I'm glad it's on streaming.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
You have a chance to watch it and enjoy it, or not enjoy it, without the negative thoughts brewing in your mind saying, did I waste $30 on this experience that didn't turn out to be as good as I thought? You pay your subscription price, and then past that, you can either watch it, like it, turn it off, do what you want to do with it, but you're not having to do all the extra work that you would have to do going to the theater to watch this project. What'd you have, Kage?
Well, just to add to that, streaming, it has its pros and cons. You can, on one hand, you don't get the giant IMAX experience. Like, people, if you were one of those people that watched Dune at home when it was on, like, you messed up. You messed up. You did yourself a severe misservice. That was a film, an experience that needed to be felt and seen, experienced in theaters, in IMAX, if you had an IMAX theater where you lived. But then when it comes to streaming, you don't have that experience, but you do have the freedom and the comfort to sit there and watch a movie in your PJs, have your favorite snack, popcorn, whatever it is, and just sit there in the comfort of your own home and enjoy it. And if people come in, your kid is crying, your baby's crying, you can pause the movie, so you have that benefit. But then, you can watch it at your own pace. And if it's bad, you're like, okay, man, movies are getting expensive.
Yeah.
Movies getting expensive nowadays.
Yeah.
But it doesn't sting as much when you're watching a stream, versus going to a theater and seeing a bad movie.
Yeah, you can just chalk it up to dodging a bullet and then move on with your
Yeah,
life.
yeah.
Maybe
But-
watch something that you want to watch.
For sure. But it's, again, the same thing I said about the other animated series. We won't know if this is good or bad until it comes out. We don't know if this is going to be entertaining in its own right, like for people that are non-gamers, non-readers of the book. Are you going to watch this? And I'm curious, for anybody out there listening who watches it, did you like it? I'm asking you a future question. Are you going to like it? Being a non-gamer, a non-reader of the series, is it entertaining in its own right?
Enough to get you interested more in The Witcher.
Correct. Or the people that are diehard fans, you're out there. You read the books, you know the lore down to every T. Is this animated series good? Does it follow the book? Because if it follows the book really well, it's going to get reviews. It's going to get good reviews because of the fans. And if you're just a fan of the game, are you still going to enjoy this? I guess it's a mixed bag. We won't know until we know.
Interesting. And so let's move on to our next topic, and then we'll wrap everything up with the Last of Us discussion. When I talk about the Last of Us with Kage, we're going to specifically talk about what he expects for season 2. We'll save the conversation as far as rating season 1 for when Buttons gets back to the panel here. But Kage, let's talk about Super Bowl 59. Not necessarily the game, but is there a trailer that you would want to see if you were going to tune in to an event like this? And maybe it could be a trailer that we've already seen. It also could be a film that, is going to be releasing, but we don't have a trailer yet. What are your thoughts on that? Do you think that some of these studios should take this opportunity to go ahead and throw something out there right now?
As far as what to expect, I don't know. I do know that every Super Bowl season, I have gotten a lot of surprises. Even if you're not into football, or even if you're not into sports, the commercials that come out, are funny and entertaining, but trailers for movies come out. Trailers for games come out as well. Why? Because they know that this is the most eyes event. Everybody's watching this, right? Yeah. And so if you're going to advertise a product, a movie, a game, this is the time to do it. You know what I mean? It's smart. It makes sense. If everybody is watching this, you're going to the people are going to be fighting each other to get their ads out there, their commercials, their trailers. That's what they're trying to do.
I just got a real good idea. But
what's your idea?
But the thing is, it's like, is that going to translate? And it might not translate. I was going to say this would actually be a great time for Rockstar to put out the Grand Theft Auto.
And thank you. And that is what
But
I
it's
was.
Grand
No,
Theft Auto 6,
listen.
That would be
I'm
wow.
glad we're in the same wavelength. All right, we were thinking the same thing exactly. So as far as
talk about that controversy right now with them.
Well, okay, I'll talk about that in a bit. So as far as movies coming out, we talked about it in December. We talked about it in our last episode as well, that this year is not going to sugarcoat it, folks. It's a little difficult for movies. We're not having a lot of big, heavy hitters like we did in years past. And, we're really kind of struggling, to be honest, to just try to find something really great that we want to watch, that we want to report on and such. There are things out there, but we really got to look for it, And so I'm open to surprises. My biggest movie of the year is 28 Years Later, because I'm a huge fan of that franchise. I love the first 2 films. Yeah, man, that's the one I'm really jonesing for. Everything else in my eyes is just filler. Right. I'm hoping Monkey surprises me. I'm hoping Companion surprises me.
Yeah.
But other than that, it's going to be really tough this year.
I do want to see the trailer for Fantastic Four release.
Oh, okay, that's a great point.
And Jurassic World Rebirth.
So those are, at best, curiosity films for me. I'm kind of getting burnt out on Jurassic Park. If I see another raptor movie, I'm going to lose my mind. Pick a different dinosaur, folks. But also, too, Fantastic Four, we literally have 3 or 4 movies showing that Hollywood just can't do it. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And
That's
if,
why
if,
this is
if,
gonna be
if you wanna
important.
if
Yeah.
you wanna beat it into the ground some more, okay, fine. Let's see what you got. Show us another film. Show us another trailer. I'm open-minded. I'm open to change my mind. I'm not instantly shooting it down. I'll give it a chance. So yeah, I'm open to seeing a really cool trailer of these films mentioned, or maybe something brand new. We always get a reveal of some kind during the Super Bowl. As far as games, yeah, we could definitely see trailers during game trailers too, and it might not be on TV too.
Right, right.
These trailers could be uploaded onto YouTube. You'd be scrolling Facebook, TikTok, for those of you who still have that. Yeah, like, just keep an eye out. I guarantee you, we're gonna see something.
Yeah, that would be amazing to see a Grand Theft Auto 6 trailer on this.
Oh yeah, and
But specifically because Rockstar, it seems like they're spiraling in a sense. Not too bad. Rockstar, they're fine. They'll be fine. But it just seems like people are so hungry for a second trailer from Rockstar for Grand Theft Auto 6.
For sure.
I think they said the record for trailer release for Grand Theft Auto as far as trailer 1 and 2, that Grand Theft Auto 6 has already surpassed that record for not having any content in between. So I think this would be a great way to just keep everybody at bay if they actually take this time to put out a trailer for the biggest game you
'Cause
could
it's
say in
been-
the next 30 years. It's just going to be crazy if they do that. Also, I would like to see a trailer for The Accountant. It might not be a big blockbuster, but we still don't have a trailer for The Accountant, and the film comes out in April. This is The Accountant 2 I'm talking about, with Ben Affleck and John Bernthal. But that would be cool to see a trailer for that. I think it's worth the money. I think The Accountant 2 is going to make money. I think there's an audience that wants to see the film. I think it's worth the investment just to get people going, because they have not put out a trailer for this film yet, and it comes out in 2 months. I'm not necessarily a fan of getting trailers 8 months projected out before a film,
I
but
agree.
when we're getting into that 2-month range, that's the optimal time to really start putting out trailers and marketing heavy. And I haven't heard a thing about this film, and it is coming out, so there's nothing going on with that. But Kage, you got some thoughts on something?
Well, I was just gonna say, first off, when it comes to trailers, I think we say it all the time here in the Popcorn Square. Less is more.
Oh, yeah.
I don't need 3 or 4 trailers.
Nope.
I don't need a trailer that shows me every highlighted moment, because now I'm like, I've already seen it.
Yeah, I can.
I've
I
already-
can, I
I've
can
already
put
seen
this
the-
film together now.
Yeah, I can figure it out. And your job, when you're throwing a trailer together, your job is to make me, pique my interest.
Right.
Tell me what the story is,
But don't tell me the whole story.
but don't tell me the whole story.
Yeah.
Give me just enough, dangle that carrot just
Some
enough to
breadcrumbs.
get me. Some breadcrumbs, yeah. And that's what you got to do. And unfortunately, too many studios are very guilty of putting out 2 or 3 trailers, red band trailer. They put these trailers out and they show everything. I think Marvel movies are the biggest offenders of that, for sure. They'll put too much, and then of course you have, when you're promoting your film, you have interviews. I mean, God, guys, we already know about Tom Holland's history of like dropping spoilers. So you got stuff like that. So I feel like less is more. If
Oh,
you make,
yeah.
'cause it's not about the quantity of trailers, quantity of content. It's quality. You can still get people to want to watch a film with 1 trailer,
Right.
maybe 2 at best, and give us just enough to give us the plot to
Right.
get us interested, but not give away everything, and just stop while you're ahead. Do not keep going.
Yeah, one I can almost guarantee. Not a psychic here, but I can almost guarantee this. I think you are going to see some new content for Mission Impossible 8. I don't think Paramount's going to skip out on the Super Bowl for that. That film comes out in May as well,
Yeah.
so you're looking at a 3-month window. We did get the first trailer. I mean, technically, you can call it a teaser. I don't know what they designated it as, but I call it a trailer. So if they called it the teaser and they still haven't put out their official trailer,
Yeah.
I think you're going to see something from Paramount Pictures for Mission Impossible 8. And we might see some more stuff for Superman, James Gunn's Superman.
Oh, yeah, I forgot about that.
Yeah, DC did a good job of getting ahead of all these big studios for that month of July. We've talked about how July is action-packed. You get Jurassic World Rebirth, which comes out on the July 4th weekend. Great great time to release that film. I think that film's going to make the most money in July. Then you have Superman. And then after that, 2 weeks later, you have Fantastic Four. Superman is the only film that has put out a trailer for all those releases in July. And so if these other studios don't get on it quickly, that could hurt their box office there. But yeah, that was our talk about what we expect and what we'd like to see. On you got something, Kage? What you got?
Well, I was gonna say before we move on to too bit, because we did mention Grand Theft Auto. So I'll try to keep this short because we do got Last of Us that we're going to talk about here to wrap up the episode. But recently, some articles have been coming out that Grand Theft Auto 6 is going to be 30 frames a second. Now, 10 years ago, maybe a little more than that, that wouldn't be a big deal. But 60 frames has kind of become, well, I shouldn't say kind of, it is the norm now. Okay? It's the standard now. And I understand, I've done graphic design, 3D animation. I understand that it takes a lot of people, a lot of resources to, render 100 characters moving on the screen, all the buildings in the background, the moving cars, the audio for each of these things, not to mention the animation of the character that the player is controlling. I understand that, and as technology improves, you would think it would become more and more efficient. The process would be smoother in some aspects. But to hear that this game that a lot of people are so excited for, Grand Theft Auto, man, is one of the biggest franchises in gaming. And it's sad that we had to have this many years between Grand Theft Auto 5 and Grand Theft Auto 6. In my opinion, we should be looking at Grand Theft Auto 7 right now. That's how much time they took because of Grand Theft Auto Online. That's basically what happened. We didn't have online with the other games. That's why there's like a shorter cycle between games. But once they figured out, hey, we're making money on this, we're just going to keep doing this. Meanwhile, the people that want the good, crazy story, that they put in GTA, we're just kind of left to the back burner. But I'm excited for this game, but this really hurts my interest knowing that, wow, we have a game that we've been waiting for so long, and the best we get is 30 frames. This isn't 2014, folks. Rockstar.
Let's up it.
Rockstar, we know what you're capable of. Come on, step it up. Again, time will tell. I play older games.
Makes me wonder what Red Dead Redemption 2 was set at.
Red Dead Redemption 2, that's a great question. I did not play that.
It'd be odd to go backwards.
It would be odd to go backwards because when you're making a game, you obviously want to do more, bigger, better, a bigger map, more abilities, more characters, just everything's ramped up. And it makes sense that I hear that the map is going to be even bigger on 6 than it was in 5. But still, I feel like you guys need to go back to the drawing board, redo your code, your programming code, figure it out. Just figure it out because it's 2025. 60 frames is kind of the standard these days at this point. Can it be a great game at 30 frames? Yeah, I believe it can. But you're going to have to really make sure, spit and polish that thing, down to its finest pixel. Make sure that everything is on point. The lighting, the shading, the acting, the voice acting, the story, everything needs to be on point because there's a very cinematic feel as well as comedic, to these. That's the fun of these games. Do whatever the heck you want, but time will tell. So hopefully we see something.
Good breakdown there. Now, I'll let you take the final stage here on what you expect for The Last of Us Season 2, which we know is going to be premiering in April. I've talked about this on the weekly a couple times. I was really early on projecting when this was actually going to release. I think I projected that this was going to release 2 months before they announced it. So yeah, it's looking like around April 25th could be a little earlier than that, but April looks like the month we're going to get Last of Us Season 2, heavily popular show based off the video game Last of Us and Last of Us Part 2. Kage has played both and has a lot of information on both games. Just want to hear some quick thoughts on what he thinks and what he expects for Season 2 in April.
Okay, yeah. So, like Neff said, I played 1 and 2. Very amazing games. 10 out of 10 in my eyes. I feel like the first one I liked a little more, just a little bit more. Not to say 10 was bad. They definitely offered some new mechanics, new story elements and such. But as far as the show, season 1 was amazing in my opinion, and in everybody else's opinion, because it got 10, the episodes were 10 out of 10. The season got great reviews over the board, so I expect nothing less of season 2. I think it's going to get great reviews. I do feel like that there might be a little bit of backlash, just knowing what I know about the story. And I'm going to throw this out there to be fair. Okay, I'm going to be fair. For those of you that have not played the game, you're not gamers, and you don't want spoilers, this is your time to walk away. Okay, come back to this point later. Okay, that's official. Okay, you've been warned. All right, cool. So, so the reason why I feel it's important to bring this up, for the non-gamers out there, you gamers out there who have played Last of Us 2, you already know what I'm going to talk about, and that is people in the game in Last of Us 2 did not like that Joel dies in the very beginning. Well, I shouldn't say the very beginning of the game, maybe like an hour or two into Last of Us 2, he dies, and the first story or the first game was a story about love. It's about the love of what is it that Joel has for Ellie. He loses his daughter, and years later in this post-apocalyptic world, he gets Ellie, and neither one of them have a choice in this, but they grow to care for one another, and she becomes kind of like a surrogate daughter to him. You know what I mean? And so you really have an emotional attachment to these characters, okay? That emotional attachment, keep that in mind, folks. And so when you have Last of Us 2, when you've fallen in love with these characters, you're very connected to it, and all of a sudden one of them dies, you hate it. I remember when, take for instance, when Walking Dead was out and Glenn got killed. I heard that was a end point for a lot of people. A lot of people stopped watching the show after that. But the thing is, for those that don't know, they were pretty faithful to the comics in regard. As horrific as that was, as sad as it was to see Glenn, many people's favorite character, including mine, to see him get killed in such a spectacular, violent, horrifying fashion, you got to give it to him, because at least they were sticking to the comics. You know what I mean? That show didn't follow the comics one for one, but it definitely, it basically followed the key points, the key story points. You know what I mean? And so when that happened, there was a lot of backlash. A lot of people dropped off. They stopped watching after one of their favorite characters died. And I feel like Last of Us could suffer from that. I feel like if you are really attached to Joel, and I don't know how in depth they're going to go with his death. I don't know if it's going to be as brutal. Now, it's HBO, so I'm pretty sure they're going to show everything. I won't say how he dies, but it's not pretty. Okay? It's not pretty. This world is not pretty. It's not nice. It's horrifying. It's sad. It's tragic. Everybody experiences loss and deals with it in their own way, good or bad. That being said, as a gamer, I know what's going to happen, and I know they might deviate from that. They might tell the same story beats, but they'll go about it in a slightly different way. And I'm open-minded. I'm not a gatekeeper. I'm not going to sit there and get upset if they didn't do exactly what they did in the game. But as long as you follow the same story beats, I think it's going to be good.
Do you think that was a big thing that people didn't like about the second game? The fact that he gets killed like that?
That was So that's more of a half
So
of the
do you
problem.
think they don't go that route to get people to be happy about this?
Well, no, because the thing is, this series it follows. This is one of those.
It's like beat for beat.
It's pretty damn close. Because, okay. When you make a movie or series about a video game, Hollywood likes to change things. And that pisses people off. And when it pisses people off, it pisses off the gamers. Okay? The people that don't know anything about Mortal Kombat are going to watch that movie and go, oh, that's pretty cool.
Right.
The gamers who watched Fallout are like, that was awesome. The people who watched Last of Us Season 1, that was awesome. They even fleshed out some stuff. They didn't talk about the beginning of the virus. They didn't talk about that in the game. You know, you kind of hear little bits and pieces of like on written paper, newspaper clippings, maybe some dialogue from a character, but that was about it. But they actually showed some stuff. So they kind of added more. They fleshed out that lore in the show. So I think that was a welcomed deviation. But as far as Last of Us Part 2 is concerned, you know, there's two equations to this, okay? In the game, people were upset that we had to say goodbye in a horrific fashion of one of the two big characters in the game, right? That's the first aspect. The other aspect that turned people off is like, Ellie used to be a good character, a daughter, and like, remember how I said the first story was a story about love? You can watch the behind the scenes for the making of The Last of Us, the game, and creative director Neil Druckmann of Naughty Dog even said the first game is a story of love, while the second game is a story of hate, and you're like, what does he mean by that? And then you play the game and you realize exactly what he's talking about, because here's Ellie who loves Joel and looks at him as a father figure, and then towards the end of the game,
Then he flips it on its head.
On the end of the game, he essentially lies to her about something, and you gamers know what I'm talking about. For those that watch the show, you know what I'm talking about. I don't want to spoil too much if I can help it for the second season, but like, you know what I'm talking about, and she's not stupid. She knows she's lied to. She doesn't know exactly what happened, but she knows there's secrets being kept from her. But even though she's got that little bit of anger and resentment towards Joel, when he gets killed, that pushes her over the edge. She's still mad, at that stuff, but she feels even worse because you just killed her only father figure. And so now the entire game is about her finding out who did this and getting revenge. She kind of pulls a beekeeper, a Liam Neeson, if you will. She is out for blood, and she doesn't care who gets in her way. And so there's that hate there that we keep mentioning. She wants revenge. She wants these people to suffer, and she will find them. She has a particular set of skills taught to her by Joel, by the way. So
the progression of this is going to be very good on the screen.
Yeah, I think it's gonna make for great entertainment. You know what I mean? But I just hope that people can stick with it. After, and by the way, too, Joel, he appears in the game long after he dies through flashbacks. So it's a show. I'm pretty sure we're gonna see flashbacks.
It's not a closed book on that.
Yeah, they're not gonna pull an Obi-Wan where you see a ghost. They're not, and if they did that, I'd be turned off from the show because there's no ghosts in Last of Us. But if we see flashbacks and things like that, I think I'm almost positive we're gonna see
Your most anticipated show of the year, sir?
Last of Us. You know what? I'm gonna say that could be it. That could be it. Where are we? Do we know if we're getting Fallout this year?
Probably not.
Probably not.
Next year for sure. They're
Next
filming.
year, because I know
they're filming.
They started filming it pretty quickly because the first one was just so good.
Which is good. Yeah, but you'll probably get it sometime next year for sure, because I know they are filming. Definitely reported on that. Really good breakdown, Kage, of The Last of Us Season 2 and what to expect. We want to know what you think down in the comments about all of these topics that we spoke on today. Pretty good episode. We covered a lot. covered all the films in January as far as their performance, what's going to be coming out in February, what we expect. Talked about Super Bowl 59, Go Philadelphia. And we also talked about The Last of Us, Season 2. Definitely a lot of good content. Lots of good content. Any thoughts, Kage, left?
All I can say is I hope we get some. I'm looking forward to them trailers. I'm looking forward to trailers.
I want to see that Fantastic Four trailer. This Fantastic Four, ladies and gentlemen, we've talked about this on the weekly. This Fantastic Four is akin to Superman for DC Studios. If Fantastic Four does not work, they are going to have a hard time with Avengers Doomsday. Will Avengers Doomsday more than likely make money? It will make money, but Fantastic Four is going to be the stepping stone for the anticipation behind that because of Doctor Doom. So
Yeah,
definitely want to
sure.
see something for Fantastic Four. Anything else?
All I can say is, folks, keep your eyes out for the Super Bowl, man. Watch them trailers. Watch, there's going to be reveals. I guarantee
Something crazy.
And not just on TV, folks. Keep an
Oh,
eye
yeah.
online.
They-
Keep
they
an eye
drop
on
online
YouTube.
too,
They're gonna be dropping announcements, and yeah, man, that's gonna be a wild card. If I see a GTA trailer in the middle of that,
That'd be amazing.
I'm gonna watch
That'd
it.
be great.
I'm gonna watch it. I'm excited. That little news about the 30 frames, that's kind of a buzzkill. Is it enough to stop me or other gamers from looking forward to it? Probably not. But time will tell. We'll just have to see what happens.
Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, please subscribe to the channel, ring the bell for notifications. Share this video with a couple of friends and colleagues. Let them know to subscribe to the channel as well and ring the bell for notifications. And stay tuned to our next episode of the Popcorn Square podcast. I am Neff signing off with
Kage.
Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, be safe.
Be safe.